happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, thanks to the team over at ShowZ, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Takara Tomy Transformers masterpiece MP-56 Cybertron Strategist Trailbreaker. Now, for those of you looking to add one of these to the collection, I'll of course be sure to smack a link down in the description box below, and for those who want to support the channel, be sure to use the creator code PVP, much appreciated. So, as we jump into the box art, we get some pretty nifty shots of Trailbreaker in both robot and vehicle mode. As we take a look here at the top, it's pretty much standard for some of these masterpiece figures, and here at the back we get a whole host of its features as well as all of the accessories. So I believe that pretty much wraps it up here for the packaging. I personally have been really looking forward to this guy. From some of the product shots, he looks to be one of our best masterpiece figures released for a couple of years, so let's finally get him out here. But just before we do that, let's go over a few of the extras. So here we get the collector's card, fantastic artwork, some of the best I think I've seen for a masterpiece in quite a while. As we come around to the back, we get some statistics. Not too sure what number 3 is meant to represent, but I am not taking this guy into battle just in case it's firepower. And we also get a set of stickers, which I imagine are to either make him more toon or toy accurate. So some here for the windows, and then a whole host of Autobot logos. But as you guys all know, I hate stickers, so they can go straight in the trash. Here we have Trailbreaker as he comes packaged in his officially licensed Toyota vehicle mode, and it's a sweet looking vehicle. So as we just jump into the details, completely painted, magnificent transparent blue plastic. I mean, that looks so sick. I like the chromed out grille. This is actually one of 2 grills, so pretty decent inclusion. The Autobot logo there at the top. Here is what he looks like from an underside, the back, as well as this side, the top, and luckily this isn't a sticker. I thought this was going to be a sticker, but it's not. It is a proper printed on tampo. The wheels unfortunately are not rubber, but that doesn't stop him from rolling out into battle. He can glide along the ground with ease. So let's jump into a few of the features. So first of all, you can take the bumper, hinge this section down, and as I'm sure you guys would expect, you can flip up the hood to reveal some pretty nice internal details, such as the engine block, some nice wiring, this silver piece here, and you can also make this vehicle just as a whole look way more toon accurate. So to do this, you're supposed to take the side view mirrors, which in themselves have got some really nice paint here on the back, and just fold those in. We can then pop off the chromed out grille and switch it out for this kind of cel shaded version, so completely kind of painted in a nice grey. So this does just snap over the top. Can be a little difficult to do the first couple of times, I won't lie, but it should just clip in there. So snap that in, and then we can just fold up the hood, and there is Trailbreaker looking slightly more cartoon accurate, which is the one that I'm going to keep on for robot mode anyhow. And then finally, if we flip up this piece, it does reveal an additional adapter for us to bring in this chromed out radar dish. Now, this has been sculpted pretty nicely. We do get some nice tubing here at the back. We simply do just peg that in there, and you can have this scanning for Decepticons in the area, which I thought was a really sweet inclusion. So there's Trailbreaker in vehicle mode. Let's take a very quick look at some comparisons. So the only other figure I have here to compare would be alongside the Earthrise version of the character. Now I want you guys to keep the scale in mind here, because despite there obviously being a difference in size, I don't think they're too far off in vehicle, but that's not the case when we get into robot mode. This guy goes through some massive mass shifting, which is kind of crazy, but there's the comparison between these two. So definitely way more toon accurate, as you would expect from a masterpiece. And transformation time, surprisingly, this guy isn't an absolute pain in the butt. Probably one of the more enjoyable MP figures that I've checked out over on the channel. So to start things off, you can open the doors, which is something you can do just as a feature in general, and I do believe there's some product shots of you actually being able to fit Spike in there. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful. I mean, there is literally no extra space in there at all, so I'm not too sure how the designers over at Takara managed it, but just pop these doors open on both sides. We can then come around to the back. You want to take these rear tail lights and just separate them from the Toyota bumper. We can then take this piece here and just wriggle this off, and then essentially flip this entire section up and over. We're going to start off firstly here with the legs. So first of all, just split these pieces like that. We can then come here to the side of the wheels, flip those out, take this panel, pull this out, and you can actually shift this section down. Now once you've done that, it will allow for enough clearance for us to just pop that in there, snap this into place, and then this panel will come up and over, and will also just click in very securely. Next up, you're going to want to take what will become the front of the foot, pivot this down, get your finger in here, and just pop open this part of the shin, so click that into place, and then for some finishing touches, flip out this piece, which of course will become the heel spur, and then just rotate here at the thigh, and that is one of the legs fully complete. Rinse and repeat the same here for the opposite side, and you're pretty much good to go. We can then now flip here to the underside, and this is where things can get a little tricky. So first up, you're going to want to take these tires and just hinge those inwards just like that. Really like the conversion of these. And then we're going to take these doors, take these windows here, and just fold those inwards. And now you're going to want to extend this joint. So as you guys can see, it is on a slider joint. It compresses for vehicle mode and then extends whenever you open the door. And we're just going to want to flip this here all the way around. And as you may be able to tell, there is a tiny little slot that this tab is going to go into. So just slide this here through and snap that there into place. The first couple of times you do this, it can be quite scary, as it really does feel like you're putting a lot of pressure on this hinge joint, but I'm pretty certain it can withstand a pretty decent amount of force. So do the same here for this side. Fold up this window, bring this around, just push that in, and then just snap that section in there. Next up, you're going to want to come here to the front of the vehicle, take the windscreen, and just basically collapse it underneath the front of the hood, just like that. What that will then allow us to do is slide this in. It is on a slider joint, as you guys can see, this very nice kind of pin joint. Click that in all the way, and that will allow us to connect what is basically the spinal column to this torso. So just click that in there. We can now take this piece here, flip this out, as well as the sensor, and now we can take the arms and just hinge those outwards like that. Moving the camera upwards as he's getting pretty tall, like I mentioned previously, you'll then want to take this part of the backpack, slide this section here forwards, and we're actually going to want to pop this section out, which will reveal he's a beautifully sculpted and painted head. So we can then snap that there into place. Make sure that this here is fully collapsed. Bring these arms down just to get them out of the way. And here we come to the backpack, which again, surprisingly, isn't too complex. So you'll want to take this here. It does bend, so that allows for enough clearance for us to bring this up and over. And then just snap that section in. Bring this here forwards. This is chrome, so just be a little delicate when maneuvering these pieces in general. And then we can take the sensor and also push this here through. And this is on a nice little hinge joint, which will just bend outwards. Now we come to this piece, separate this rear section away, and there are some nice transparent slider joints. So for this specific combination, you're going to want to slide those outwards, take the tail lights, snap those here into place. And now what's going to happen is we get these additional slots on the outsides that are going to peg into these ones here on the inside. So just snap that in there and do the same here for this side. And then take these pieces and just collapse those down. And as you guys can see, we get two slots here and here that these two tabs are going to peg into. So let's just bring the backpack down, snap that there nice and securely into place. Near enough finished now. And then for some finishing touches, you're going to want to take the forearm, extend it away from the shoulder joint, rotate this around, and then here on the underside, we can just flip open this panel, fold out that bot mode hand, and do the exact same here for this side. So flip out this panel as well. And there we have the MP Trailbreaker fully transformed up into his pretty sick looking robot mode. And for a masterpiece, the transformation isn't an absolute nightmare. This is by far one of the more enjoyable ones that I've had the pleasure of experiencing over on the channel, and definitely one of the more solid figures I think we've seen from Takara in quite a while. I mean, just check out the profile of this guy. Literally looks like he's walked off the animation. They've done such a good job on him. Now, as we take a look at the details, I personally love the metallic blue they've used for the visor. From pretty much any angle, it looks like he's been brought to life. I hope we can see something similar like this in future MP releases, as I just love the way that looks. And we get the chromed out weapons here on the back, which are on hinge joints, so you can move them around in pretty much any way that you'd like. So that's pretty sweet. Here is what he looks like from a back perspective. So nothing that looks too ugly like the Masterpiece Bumblebee. Everything does stack away pretty decently. And I'll try my best to find some of the actual cells from the animation showcasing what Trailbreaker looked like in the original G1 series. And if my memory serves me correctly, this is pretty much spot on. So Takara Tomy at their best. They should be the masters of Transformers, and at least with this guy, I think they've done a pretty decent job. I don't own any of the third-party versions of this character, so I can't say for sure that this is the definitive version, but at least in my own personal collection, I am more than happy to have this guy. My only issue with him is that there are a few ugly gaps. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of this gap we have here at the top. It's kind of inevitable due to the way he transforms, but I wish this maybe could have just compressed a little further in. And we also do get a bit of hollowness for the inside of the chest, but honestly, nothing that is too noticeable. Some decent detailing and proportions here for the arms. I think that looks pretty cool. Much like the vehicle mode, for the most part he's painted. I mean, there are a few areas which are just plastic, such as the skirt pieces. I think the thighs too are just plastic. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty certain they are. And the same could be said here for the grey pieces we have for the forearms. here are what the legs look like. So again, very streamlined, and articulation on this guy also isn't bad whatsoever. Besides the head, I wish we could have gotten a little better range looking upwards. It is on a ball joint, so it does kind of look up and down. Yes, you should subscribe to the Prime vs Prime YouTube channel, and it can also rotate left to right, which is kind of cool. We do get some nice hinge joints going the full 360, some butterfly joints, which I always love to see on a masterpiece. Now here for the shoulder, I'm aware that officially there is this kind of hidden articulation joint where you basically take the top and the middle and kind of bring this piece over the top. Personally, I'm not willing to risk breaking my own copy. This guy costs way too much for that, so I'm just going to leave it up to you guys. If you want to risk damaging this guy, then by all means go ahead, but the articulation we do get is more than adequate in my opinion, so this can bend, I'd say, roughly to that far. Not too bad. We do get a nice rotation here out of the bicep, single jointed elbows, but that allows for a great range, so can't complain too much. As per tradition with masterpiece figures, we do get a swivel, a hinge joint going back and forth. The index finger as well as the thumb is individually articulated, and then the other 3 fingers are conjoined. So decent there. I really like the articulation we get out of the waist, so full rotation as well as a proper ab crunch, and they've kind of added this filler piece so that it isn't just an ugly dead clean cut, so thought that was a pretty sweet touch. The skirt pieces are separate to the thighs but still move in accordance, so we can kick them upwards. That's pretty decent, and then when we bring them down, they will also come down, which I like. These pieces here can hinge out to the sides to allow for a kick out to the side. We do get a thigh rotation, as well as a single jointed knee, but much like the elbows, more than adequate range there and some pretty decent sculpt work. Due to transformation, we do kind of get a mid-thigh rotation, which isn't too bad at all, and this is the backward range for those of you wondering, so again, not too bad. And then here out of the ankles, these are superb, so you can kind of extend these to allow the foot to go forwards and backwards, and of course, rock side to side. So I'm pretty impressed with the articulation of this guy. Honestly, can't complain too much, and like I said, you could probably get even more out the shoulders if you're just slightly braver than I am. Now, accessory wise, truth be told, he doesn't come with a heck of a lot. I mean, he comes with a decent amount, so in addition to this kind of stoic neutral face, we can just slide it off and replace it with this gasping expression, which kind of reminds me of how I feel when I can tell you guys haven't clicked the like button. Please click the like button. But really cool. I mean, I like the facial sculpt, and again, that blue visor just looks so sick. And then finally, we get a third interchangeable piece, which I believe is him smiling, so just a little more personality. Like the way that looks. And then some of the final accessories we get are swap out components for the hands. So you'll bring this section down, take this, and it does just slide clean off. We can then bring in this cannon, slide this over the top, snap that in, and this is actually the piece that comes with this figure straight out of the packaging, so that is something worth bearing in mind, although I'm not a big fan of where it's been cut off the sprue. As you can see, that leaves a nasty grey gash, which looks kind of ugly, but this is extendable, so we can pull this out. Very difficult to do, however. They haven't chromed the center, but I imagine that's just to basically avoid paint scratching, and I mean, from certain angles, looks pretty cool. Decent detail. We also do get a blast effect, so you can peg that in there. You can peg it into the shoulder cannon or the sensor, completely up to you guys. And then finally, we get this third attachment, which is by far my personal favorite. It's kind of this triple clawed device. Really awesome weapon. Again, fully chromed out and looks a little neater when in comparison to the cannon. You can see that there still are some sprue marks, but they're nowhere near as ugly as the other version. This too is also blast effect compatible, at least with the effect that he comes with out of the packaging, which from this shot looks like he's shooting out snot, which kind of looks a bit ugly. But yeah, pretty impressed with everything this guy comes with, and just as a masterpiece in general. Now, taking a look at some bot mode comparisons, we're going to start off with the one that we took a look in vehicle mode. Here we have the Generations Earthrise Trailbreaker. Now, I just want to transport you guys, cast your minds back to when we took a look at that vehicle mode comparison, and despite there being a slight difference in terms of the scale, it wasn't massive, whereas here in robot mode, as you guys can see, this MP version is probably twice the size of our Generations Deluxe, so there is a lot of mass shifting that goes on with this guy, and again, it's truly a tell sign of just how well done Takara MPs can be when they actually put the work in. I mean, I've been thoroughly kind of unimpressed with their train bots, but this is a return to form, and I'm hoping this is the level of engineering that we can see going forwards. But just to showcase how these guys look from a side perspective, despite this being a deluxe, still very impressive, but the masterpiece definitely is the definitive collector grade item in my opinion. Here he is alongside the masterpiece Ironhide. Just so you guys can see how these kind of big gut Autobots compare alongside one another. I do think this one fills in a little better as far as the mid-torso goes, but like I said previously, definitely not a deal breaker on Trailbreaker. Here he is next to Masterpiece 44 Optimus Prime. Just so you guys can see roughly how these two stack up next to each other. And then finally, the tiny little Bumblebee Masterpiece 2.0. And wrapping up on this review for the MP-56 Trailbreaker. Colour me impressed. I'm actually quite surprised to say that, considering how unimpressed I've been with some of their Masterpiece train bots, but this to me really does feel like a proper return to form for Takara. This is a really nice masterpiece. I mean, in terms of vehicle mode, officially licensed Toyota, fantastic paintwork across the entire body of the vehicle, some nice features such as the radar dish and the swap out more tune accurate front bumper, and let's talk about transformation. Not an absolute nightmare nor train wreck. This is so much more enjoyable than some of their more recent offerings, and I'd say you could probably gather the hang of the transformation in 2 to 3 tries, so really cool. And then we get stuck into the bot mode, which at least for me is one of the nicest looking versions of Trailbreaker we've ever seen. I'm sure there's some third party alternatives out there, but at least for my own personal display, I am more than happy with this guy. Great articulation, great paintwork. Maybe would have liked to have seen that kind of gap that sits under the neck closed up just a little bit, but that's just a minor qualm. I like it. Definitely does scale well with some of the other figures, and I think in terms of the mass shifting, it's really impressive. I mean, this guy goes from being a pretty kind of stocky, compact vehicle to a very slim and slender looking robot mode. So definitely cool figure. One of the best masterpieces I think they've put out in quite some time. So for those of you who are looking to pick this up, be sure to check out the links down in the description box below. I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comments, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.